can't sleep because I know they're not sleeping. I try to forget about the protests, the beatings, but the feeling wells up inside and keeps me awake. It feels like I've been waiting for this my whole life, like we've been waiting for this our whole lives. My name is Tooraj Ziam. My father is Khorosh Ziam, a political dissident and activist for democracy in Iran. He is a senior analyst and member of Jebel Mali, or JMI, Iran's National Front Party, which has been banned from participation in politics. I haven't seen my father since I was 10 years old. Half my childhood he was in and out of prison. He was in prison when we escaped over the mountains into Turkey, fleeing the bombs and the war with Iraq for the freedoms in America, the same freedoms for which people are now fighting and dying in the streets of Tehran and other cities around Iran. Against the most brutal suppression, they struggle. And I get up in the middle of the night and stare in the mirror and ask, what can I do? I feel useless, powerless. In late 2007, my father gave a speech at the tomb of King Cyrus. It began like this: Cyrus, you have never died, for your spirit is alive within us. Cyrus, we are ashamed before you, for we have many times in the past let aliens in thought and heart, and those without our cultural identity, rule your land and destroy our prominent cultural heritage. We let the ignorant rule us, so that untruth, deceit, and corruption have taken the place of our traditions of truthfulness, honesty, and brotherhood. We who were the most loved in the world became the most hated. We who were the most advanced in the world of thought, knowledge, and technology became one of the most backward. We who were one of the strongest became the most downtrodden. A long time ago, I asked my father who his influences were. What do you mean, he said. I said, who influenced your views? And then I guessed a few. Mohammad Mossadegh, MLK, Mahatma Gandhi, the ancient Persian King Cyrus himself. He said his only two influences were democracy and human rights. I emailed my father shortly after the election. I knew he was in trouble, and I normally don't speak with him. It's dangerous for dissidents, many of them, to speak with people outside of the country, and the conversations are monitored on both sides. But I decided to say, screw it, I want to talk to my dad before he gets arrested. I'm glad I did, because I had so many questions for years I never got to ask him. And for a week I got to speak with him by email. Still, how open he was online unnerved me. I regularly asked him if he shouldn't be more careful what he said to me in his emails. Why should I, he wrote back. I am only being honest about the very non-Iranian state of our republic. Honesty is a traditional Persian value. What crime am I guilty of other than being a real Iranian? June 19th, Khorosh Ziam told CBC Radio Canada during a protest that the protest would not end, that he and others like him would keep fighting and would not back down. 2 days later, they came in his home and arrested him. At first, they told one of my brothers, still in Tehran, that he would be allowed to call his family. And that he'd only be held 1 week for questioning. They've kept him for a month. They said maybe 2 months. Last we heard, it would be 4. What could they possibly be questioning him about? His views are in print. His intentions are clearly stated. My father's not special. The International Campaign for Human Rights in Iran has a list of 242 detainees, including 121 political personalities, 25 journalists, 9 professors, and 87 students. These are prominent personalities who have been detained at their homes or places of work by unidentified agents and taken to undisclosed locations. They are mostly held in incommunicado detention and have no access to legal counsel. And this list does not include citizens detained during street protests. On July 10th, Tehran's Prosecutor General said more than 2,500 people have been detained in Tehran alone. With 500 still in detention, many presumed dead. Some women have been raped to death and their bodies burned to cover the evidence. On July 15th, we learned that the number of people killed is far greater than official reports. 3 hospitals recorded 34 deaths in a single day alone, compared to government claims of only 20 total deaths during the past month. In southern Tehran, there's a freezer where milk and dairy is normally kept. Families have been taken to identify their dead, and all report that there are piles of hundreds of bodies in the freezer. I asked my brother in Tehran what our father was charged with. No charges, better dad. I asked him what's going on in the streets. He said they're still beating people, old people, and women and children. My father says his only influences are democracy and human rights. The 2 things he's now being indefinitely detained for. The 2 things the Islamic theocracy is suppressing. But their democracy is our democracy. It is true that democratic ideals historically are intrinsic in the Iranian people. That they existed in Iran before any Pahlavis or Qajars, before the mullahs, before any mullahs. In fact, before democracy existed in Greece, and therefore even before the word democracy itself. And it is true that this is their fight. The Iranians there know it, and they want it that way. But their urge is a natural and universal urge. What we are witnessing now is the most crucial question of our human evolution. Should people govern themselves, conduct themselves as they see fit, as long as they're not hurting anyone, and be allowed to live their lives under a fair and equal law? Or should they be led, stripped of their aspirations as individuals, their whole public lives guided by others for their own good? That's what keeps us awake. That's what keeps America awake. That's what keeps people in Europe awake, checking in on a country so far removed from their reality, wondering what will happen next. We identify with that same urge to freedom, and we feel that same emotion wherever we are. We watch them singing in the streets, the magic and spontaneity of their movement. They're bleeding in broad daylight. They're electrified. Fearless vulnerability, and we feel it ourselves. We should stay awake with the Iranians in Iran, wherever we are. We should be vigilant till the dawn. In the streets, they believe there are only 2 directions. The battle is long, they say, but think of the message. If they can do it in Iran, alone, unarmed, beaten, robbed, vigilant till the dawn, then why not here, they'll say. And from the Sudan to Syria to China, they'll be inspired to stand together. But if we sleep tonight, we sleep forever. Thank you.